Hi there. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host, America's #1 small business expert. And now it's time for me to introduce my guest, Mickie Kennedy. Mickie is here to talk to us about all things media. He is the founder and president of eReleases, the small business leader for press release distribution, now celebrating 25 years in business. He's an expert in helping small businesses increase their visibility and credibility. He's created eReleases to give small businesses access to the media and a national newswire, all with a personal touch. He also writes for PR Fuel blog and giving out PR and public relations topic advice. For more information, head over to eReleases.com. Mickie, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast. Tell me how you learned so much about local media.
Great. So over the years, I have worked with my clients and what their needs are. I'm really good at national media attention through our service. But when it came to local media, I realized that my clients did not need me. This is really something that I think most people can do themselves. To break it down, if you think about it, even if you're in a really good metro area, there's probably less than a dozen people who would cover you. And, that includes TV, radio, newspapers, both dailies and maybe some weeklies, metro type papers and things like that. So really, we're talking about you have to do a little bit of research and build a Rolodex of like a dozen people. And, I think for a lot of people, it can be sort of daunting approaching the media and asking for an email address if you don't find one on the website or on Twitter or different places like that. But it really is as easy as just picking up the phone, calling the newspaper and saying, hey, I have a news tip I'd like to provide to this person. Can I get their email address? They'll either give it to you or forward you along to that person and just ask for their email address. With that Rolodex, if you're lucky enough to have a business magazine or business newspaper in your area, find out who would be the logical person who would cover your industry, who writes about you, and do the same thing. Ask for their email address. When it comes to TV and radio, it's a little bit different. You're going to keep an ear out. You're going to talk to others. Have you ever seen, spotlights or radio shows that talk about companies? And what those segments are. A lot of times they're Saturday, Sundays, or late evening, and they'll do a spotlight on a local business. And what you're looking for there is the producer or booker of that segment. And again, just picking up the phone and calling is all it takes. Remember, these aren't celebrities. These are members of your local media. They should be approachable. They should be willing to give you an email address, and they should be able to talk to. And what you're going to do is you don't need a press release. You're just going to send a little pitch to them. As you have an idea, you're going to send a few sentences about yourself. If there's something trending in your industry and you would be a good local example of that, just tell them that in there. I do sometimes like to, put the pill and the cheese with a really great quote where you spend a really good time saying one or two sentences really succinctly and build that into a quote. Because, if a journalist gets a fairly good lead and there's an amazing quote, they just can envision an article all around that. So I do think that sometimes having a very well-prepared quote in your pitch can really go a long ways. But it's just a matter of that. Just naturally networking with these people over time. If you do the work, you may find that, for 6 to 8 months, nothing happens. And maybe you're doing it every other month. But over time, you will see that you will get pickup. And sometimes you'll have them circle back to you. They'll be working on a story. They'll remember that you're in that industry, and they'll go and they'll pull up their email and they'll reach out to you and say, hey, I know you pitched me a few times in the past, but now I'm working on a story I feel like would be right up your alley. Could I get a quote or some insights from you as a local business? And it just happens as naturally as that. It is one of those things that I think if you put a good year and a half of nurturing this relationship along and pitching, you'll find that the second year is going to become much easier to get coverage and over time, it just happens again and again. I follow the Baltimore Sun here in the Baltimore Metro, and it's the same companies that generally get recycled in articles. So if they're talking about work from home issues or things like that, they start transitioning to mentioning this company and getting a quote from them. And it's not because they're advertisers; it's because they have a relationship and they're just easy to reach out to, and they know that they can count on them every time they're writing about a topic that they would be a good fit for.
I want to go back to crafting that pitch, because I used to be a television producer. I used to get those pitches, and there was a lot of really bad ones, Mickie. Right. All right. So I want you to give me sort of like your ABC, what needs to go in this pitch so that we make it super simple for people to, pitch their local news channel or, their local newspaper.
Right. So, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that journalists, by and large, care about their audience, and they want to either educate or entertain that audience. Sometimes delight them. And so your message is, I want to sell product. And so you have to make them align. And sometimes you have to reverse engineer what it is that you're announcing in a way that is going to make that journalist feel like, wow, this is something that's interesting and I would want to share with my audience. And so maybe you have a new product launch. They're usually not very sexy. It's usually, here's a product and here's a list of features. But maybe if you have a use case study of a local business and say, hey, I'm a company, we provide logistics software in the metro area, and we've had really amazing results with a local client. And, this was their numbers going in. They've used the product. Here's their result. And, have a quote by them as well. And again, it's just a few sentences. You don't have to build it out to an entire press release, but a journalist can look at that and say, I can build that into a story arc. And journalists do love the story arc because, we naturally, since we've been sitting around fires, have always told stories in a climax and going down sort of story cycle. And if you can give them the elements to build a story, it naturally comes together in their mind, and they can envision it, and they know that story would probably relate to their audience. And so I think that having those little nuggets and those little things work really well. Sometimes also telling your story. You're a local business, you say, but tell us how it came to be. What's your journey? There's a reason that everybody that appears on Shark Tank, one of the first things they talk about is their journey. Why they started this product. Sometimes it's inspirational. Sometimes they talk about an obstacle they overcame, like there was a health issue. They had to, leave corporate America for a bit, but they had this hobby. All of these little things. And it's because it's a human interest element, and those are things that draw us in and make us want to care. Because we don't naturally care about logos or products, but we care about other people, and we're naturally empathetic, and we want to relate to them. So getting those sort of things in there as appropriate. And it really is a matter of just paying attention. I think one of the things is if you're ever at conferences or other places and you meet other businesses like yours, and they're local business in their markets, and you feel like they really know what they're doing from a marketing standpoint, set up Google alerts for these people in other markets. And as they get media attention, see if you could craft something similar for your local media. Don't ever tell them, hey, I saw this person in Greenville, South Carolina get picked up here. Could we do something similar here? That's not going to go very well. But maybe you could say, hey, I've noticed people in the industry talking about this, and I feel my business would be a really great example. And here's why. And here again is an amazing quote. And again, to tell you a little bit about myself, I started this business because I hated my dad and he wanted me to be a doctor. And I wanted to do, window installations or something like that. And just a little thing to sort of get them to know you or something about you, and sort of pitch that. And again, just sort of do this on a regular basis, and you will be surprised, how at first how it feels like you're just throwing stuff out there and nothing's happening. But after like 6 months to a year, it starts to develop, and you find that they will respond. And sometimes they'll reply and ask a few more questions and it goes nowhere. But sometimes they will take it and run with it. And generally, I find that once you have that momentum, it just gets easier.
I love it. I love it. Last question. So what are some of the common mistakes people make when pitching though?
I think one of the common mistakes people make is they kind of try to appear too corporate. I think small businesses sort of want to prove themselves that they're like the big guys. And to be honest, journalists recognize the big companies can afford to advertise, and they love to put the spotlight on small businesses and entrepreneurs and mom and pops. Very few journalists get accolades for, talking about the latest Microsoft Office update. But, if it's a local tool or a small tool from a mom and pop, they know that they will get recognized from their audience because, it makes them seem like they're curators and they've discovered this little thing. And so for that reason, don't necessarily feel that you have to appear overly corporate. And sometimes being small and owning your smallness is a real value and something that works with the media.
Love it. Love it. All right. Last question. What is the best business advice that you've ever received?
Measure as much as you can in your business and always try to be able to A/B split different elements in your business.
So measure and test, in other words, measure and test, right?
Exactly.
All right. Love it. Thank you so much, Mickie. I really enjoyed hearing all of your wise tidbits and advice. And as a former media person, I think you gave some good advice as well.